Best of R / Tales from Retail episode 100. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. Yesterday I was at work. I work in a supermarket deli, and I was putting olives into a container for a customer. I had come back from my break and thoroughly washed my hands and began to serve her. One hand is holding the bottom of the container, other hand is scooping up olives with a spoon. I'm not touching her fucking food. She stops me once I filled up her entire container, wretched bitch, and says, shouldn't you be wearing gloves? You should be wearing gloves. Make me another one. Mind you, I'm a really anxious person and this is my third shift at this job, so I freeze up, stop and just remake her one to not cause any trouble. Once she left I asked my co-worker if I should be wearing gloves, and she said no, cause we aren't directly touching the food at all. Thank you. Next. Preface this by saying I was expecting the next time I came to this sub to have something to do with Purell or toilet paper or something, but that is surprisingly not the case. Happened a few hours ago as of this post. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I work at a local retail drugstore that happens to sell wood pellet fuel, not to be confused with pallets, the wooden thing they come on. I get tongue twisted over that all the time. In case you don't know, they're basically little compressed pellets of sawdust and wood particles that come in 40-50 pounds bags. At my store we sell them in bulk, and you can get a deal selling them by the ton. Naturally we get entire pallets stacked to that number and wrapped in plastic. I happen to be going outside where the pallets are stacked to do two things. Open up a pallet that only had a single slit in it that was hard to pull single bags from, offer to help a guy who had just bought a ton to load them into his truck. The guy loading his truck tells me he is all good, just minding his own business, cut it open with his own pocket knife and everything. I don't need to check his receipt or anything because I witnessed the transaction minutes ago. I go to do the other task I listed above when I hear the sound of one of the wooden pallets landing in a truck bed. I connect A to B pretty quickly and I go ahead and remind him of the store policy that the pallets are not for sale. My exact words were, "I'm sorry, I can't let you take the pallet." From this point I don't remember the order of things that were said, so in lieu of script format I'm gonna throw down a few quotes said by each party involved. I'm sorry, I can't let you take the pallet. Sir, it's store policy. Who in the store actually told you could take them? I'm just doing my job. So I told you I am doing my job, said about twice. Local politician. You have no idea who you're talking to. Someone else already told me I can take it. I'm not gonna stop now. Go on, call the cops, I dare you. Don't get cocky just because you're in charge here. Go inside and do your job. Said about 3 times. The exchange ended with me unfortunately going back inside, not accomplishing the goal of getting the pallet back. The store is hands off in terms of loss prevention policy. I asked a few fellow managers / supervisors if they had been letting people take pallets. They all said number. At that point I decided the least I could do was change the sign on the display so that in no uncertain terms, people knew the pallets were store property and not allowed to be taken. Of course I waited till after he was gone as to not escalate the situation any further. I only learned afterwards that he had a position in the town / village government after the exchange was over. He looked vaguely similar to a guy that had caused a scene a few weeks back over an unrelated incident. I called one of the people involved to identify him on the camera and they happened to know right away. While he wasn't the person from the other incident, she knew who he was by name. When I heard the name it clicked, because I had read it in the local newspaper before. His attitude made a little sense now. Up until that point the phrase "you have no idea who you're talking to" didn't mean much to me. This is the kind of town where the connections that he was acting like he had were either the local meth addicts or the jugglers. The fellow employee in turn rationalized that I thought they were the same person because of how big-headed the people in both incidents were. Judging by her tone, this is not the first time he's tried to let his position get to his head. She confirmed to me that shouting at a retail store employee is not out of the ordinary for him. Thank you. Next. This happened a couple months ago. A good experience that I wanted to share. I'm in Canada. I work in a big box store that sells housewares. One day an elderly Chinese couple were walking around. I was covering the kitchen section of the store and found them looking at electric kettles. I asked if they needed anything and they sort of shook their heads and didn't say anything. I leave and do some small tidying of my area. They came up to me and seemed flustered. They were trying to ask me something but they were not speaking English. The only words they knew in English were hello and thank you. I could tell they were looking for something specific. They kept pointing at the kettles and trying to express to me what they needed. It took me a minute to remember that I have Google Translate on my phone and it even has a conversation function. It was able to detect that they were speaking Mandarin and they were looking for a thermos, which in most stores you would assume that they would be near the kettles but not mine of course. I took them to the reusable mugs and thermos and showed them a few options while telling them the features through Google Translate. I helped them find one they wanted and they left very happy, and said thank you to me several times before leaving. It's a good thing my work lets us have phones on the floor. Thank you. Next. I'm writing on my phone and English is not my native language, so in advance, sorry for misspelling. A coworker of mine had this conversation earlier this year and it is a funny one. Customer, do you have any nice frames in 20 by 20 centimeters? Coworker, yes, we have these gold plated. Customer, no, I don't want gold, everything else is fine. Coworker, alright, how about this black one? Customer, no, I want a nice one. Coworker trying to keep a retail smile while counting to 10. Coworker, well, what do you think is nice then? Customer, yeah, nah, I don't know. Just something nice. Edit. Grammar. Thank you. Next. Welcome to our/Tales from Retail's Express Lane, your weekly thread for small anecdotal stories, rants, and general retail nonsense that wouldn't fit elsewhere in this sub. Please remember all the rules regarding anonymity and derogatory speech. All comments will be sorted by new. Thank you. Next. Okay, so this happened just yesterday. Was too tired to write it up when I got home last night. It happened very fast and he was mumbling somewhat, so I'll have to paraphrase slightly. Cust, me equals take a guess. ICE equals irate customer. I'd only just started my shift. A man gets far closer to me than I'd like, even without social distancing, and asks if I'm the manager of the shop. I explained that, while I wasn't the overall manager, I was the shift manager, and asked if there was anything I could help him with. He tells me that he'd bought 4 bottles of wine from the shop at the weekend, but the first 3 had been corked and undrinkable. He'd called up our customer service line, and they told him to bring them back for a replacement or refund. Me, would you like them replaced or refunded? I see, I'd like them refunded, please. So I asked him to follow me over to the tills so I can put through his refund. He produced a single, unopened bottle from the bag he was holding and handed it over. Me, I'm sorry, but I can only issue refunds on the bottles you return. Do you have the others? I see, I was told I'd get a full refund. Me, yes, but I'm not authorized to issue a refund on an item that's not actually being returned. Even an empty bottle would do. I see, who am I? Me, I don't know who you are, sir. I see, who am I? Me, I don't understand what you are asking. I see, do I look like an idiot? Me, no, sir. I see, then stop try to treat me like one. I was told I would get a full refund. Me, and I can refund this bottle. I held up the one on the counter, but I'm not authorized to issue refunds on items that have been returned. If you could come back tomorrow morning, the manager might be able to help you. No, she'd say exactly the same thing, but I honestly just wanted to get rid of him at this point. I see, I was told I'd get a full refund. Me, and as I've explained, I can't issue a refund for an item that hasn't been returned. I see, don't you get angry with me. Me, lowering voice slightly, I'm sorry if that's how I sound, but I am just trying to explain that. I see, what's your name? I'm going to call and complain. I took a piece of spare paper and carefully wrote out my name and handed it to him. He looked at it. I see, who am I? At this point, I was starting to wonder if he was actually asking what his name was, and if he'd expected me to write it down so he wouldn't forget. Me, your customer. I see, do I look like an idiot? I had to stop myself from saying yes at this point. Me, no, sir. Would you like a refund on this bottle? He just grabbed the bottle and stormed out, glaring at me as he went. I wrote the incident up in the shop diary, just in case he did come back. Later that evening, the manager called on an unrelated issue. and I took the opportunity to warn her in case she didn't see the diary. She agreed that I'd done the right thing, saying that customer services would have called or emailed the shop in advance if he had actually contacted them. We agreed that he probably was just trying to get some money out of us by threatening to cause trouble. She also agreed that I'm not known for losing my cool when dealing with problem customers, so even if he did complain, she'd have my back. All in all, just another fun day in the world of retail. Thank you. Next. This just happened a couple days ago. I am a manager at an office supply store and have been working reduced hours. Surprisingly, most customers have been level-headed and polite during these stressful times. All except for this one guy. One of my staff warned me that a pissed-off man was coming to talk to me, but even that couldn't prepare me for this conversation. C for customer. Me for me. Me. How can I assist you today? C. I bought ink for my printer and it was your brand and now my papers are coming out like this. He then held out a sheet of paper with yellow lines on it. C. That's supposed to be black. So what are you going to do for me? I saw online a lot of people were having the exact same problem with your brand of ink. Me. Well, I could do an exchange on the ink if it's a faulty cartridge. Did you bring the ink with you? He proceeded to wave the paper at me. C. I brought this. So you're not going to help me even though this ink has ruined my laptop? Me. Hold on a second. How did it ruin your laptop? C. I showed you this paper, see? It's supposed to be black but it's yellow. Me. But that wouldn't be caused by your laptop. That would be an issue with the printer. C. That's what I'm saying. Me. I apologize. I'm confused. A moment ago you mentioned your laptop was ruined. Were you talking about your printer and just misspoke? C. What do ink cartridges go into? Is that called a laptop? Me. What? No, let's just move past this. I think I'm understanding the miscommunication. So your printer remained the issue because of the ink. If you brought us the ink I could exchange it. C. I already switched the ink to the manufacturer's brand. I threw yours out. And it's still printing wrong. Your ink ruined the printer. Me. If you've already tried new cartridges, that suggests the issue is originating from the printer and may have nothing to do with the cartridges at all. C. No, it was fine before your ink was installed. Me. Can I ask how old the printer is? C. I don't know. 5 years maybe. Me. Okay, given the age and what you've described to me, my expert opinion is the issue is with the printer. C. You just don't want to help me. I'm going to go to the media with this. I wished him a good day and he left. TL. Dr. Customer thinks the ink we sold him ruined his printer despite all evidence to the contrary. Along the way confuses the word printer for laptop making the situation harder to understand. Edits for formatting.